You're listening to Haunted Tales with Skoto the Reaper. Crying Skies by Hymn of Shadows.
Chapter 7. A Sinister Chorus. As wrong as I thought Rob was about this, he would never give in. Olivia would just have to wait on her hunting dreams. Rob did have a good point, though. She had never really liked us from the start. The rest of the day crept by slowly, as everyone pretty much did their own thing. And when dinner came around, we ate some grilled catfish that had been caught the day before. That night, I was on watch again, and honestly, I didn't mind it that much. It was peaceful to listen to the night sounds of the crickets, frogs, cicadas, owls, and of course, the coyotes breaking into howls every now and then. To me, the sound was comforting. So comforting, in fact, that as a kid, I played it every night with the sound machine. The sound machine came with many options, such as ocean waves or a thunderstorm, but I always used the same summer night sounds. As a kid, the lake was like a getaway to me. The certain atmosphere of it was alluring. It was a place filled with imagination and mystery. We would sit out here on the porch and always try to make up the spookiest ghost stories to scare each other. But most of the time, they just ended up being a copied story of a Goosebumps episode we had seen. Rob and Jerry's dad had one he liked. He talked about a monstrous squid that lived next to the marina, and at night, it would reach out through the lake with its long tentacles and snatch anyone swimming in the water. My favorite one, however, was about the town that used to be where the lake was. Before the dam was built, there was just a small town next to the river. The power company that built the dam didn't care about flooding the town and its nearby land, no matter how upset the people were. And when the people had to move, they left the town cemetery completely intact. All those dead bodies to this day are still under the lake. And because of the water, the town's church bell was stuck in a permanent ringing. I've never known anyone who'd actually gotten scuba gear and gone to see the town for themselves, but Rob used to say that the flooding of the town cursed this lake, and that the flooded dead rose up to haunt it. That's why so many places have been abandoned on it over the years. Now, of course, I was living in a horror story myself. These other stories didn't freak me out as much as the one about Rob and Jerry's property. Near the edge of the property line, there was an old abandoned cabin, one that had been abandoned for as long as I could remember. But Rob would like to claim that it wasn't always abandoned. That piece of the property used to belong to the owner, an old white guy who lived alone. Rob said his dad was always creeped out by this man, as he had allegedly murdered his own wife. Of course, their dad would deny he had done this whenever I asked about the man, but that didn't stop it from still being a creepy place. This lake was often a blend of that. You had new modern cabins adjacent to old, decrepit, and overgrown abandoned ones. Certain parts of the lake often felt like a museum of old southern time periods. And as kids, we used to go explore our abandoned cabin on our own. I remember when the early iPhones came out, and we were all among the first few kids at our school to get them. We quickly discovered this Ghost Radar app, and our naive young selves really did believe it worked. The radar would show random dots on it, and every now and then some random word would pop up. We used this everywhere, but our favorite place was the abandoned cabin. Of course, because of our fear of the place, we pretty much only ventured there during the day. There was one time we were feeling brave enough to go up there at night. It was the middle of the summer, and a distant storm was rolling through, causing lightning to illuminate the night. Rob talked us all into exploring it, and we did. The whole time, I expected some ghost or some monster to jump out at us, but that never happened. To me, though, it had been the most fear I'd ever experienced, even to this day. As I got older, the lake stopped scaring me, but I also lost that same sense of wonder. That was part of why I liked to drink here. It almost made me feel like a kid again. I had also regained that sense of uneasiness about the lake and the woods and everything since all of this had started. But this was less of a straight fear, and more like an ever-building sense of dread, along with the feeling that we were being watched, of course. Originally, I had been sitting on the side porch, the one with the fire pit, where the grill was, and where we had made s'mores. I had started a small fire myself, but I was still getting pretty good light, however, from the blood moon and lack of cloud cover. Ever since that storm, I hadn't recalled seeing any clouds at all in the sky. Of course, it was awesome to get a view of the stars every night, but it was a little weird. It had only been a couple of weeks, and it wasn't like I was paying attention that much to the sky, so I didn't think much of it, and figured I had just missed the clouds. Springtime in the south, however, was usually ripe with thunderstorms, so I expected another one to hit us any moment. Despite the bright nights and the fire, there was still a wall of darkness that sat at the tree line, making it difficult to see into them. If someone was truly watching us, I wouldn't know. I had a flashlight with me and would shine it into the woods every now and then, but had yet to see anything. On my first night guarding, I heard something heavy bounding away when I did, but it was a sound I recognized as a deer, as I had heard it many times. I could, however, just barely make out the garage at the end of the driveway. This is where Jerry had been working on his little project of skinning the buck's skull. He had kept it pinned on a metal stick in the garage, and during the day, the flies would swarm it. I could see the skull now, sitting inside the dark garage, staring at me. I felt chills run down my spine, and stood up and made my way to the other dock, where I could look at the water instead. "So, I have a couple questions about your theory." Olivia's voice jolted me out of my thoughts. I turned around to see she had stepped out onto the porch also. "Like what?" I asked. "So, if you really think we're part of this experiment or whatever, then what's your plan to get out of this?" "Well, like I said, we probably can't just get up and leave. So, I don't think we can. But I think we can beat them at their own game." "Oh?" "Have you ever read Lord of the Flies?" "I think as a kid we had to, back at our school, but I barely remember it." "Well, in it, a group of kids become stranded on an island in the middle of a nuclear war. The kids start out reasonable, but because of disagreements, they slowly descend into savagery and start killing each other. You see that a lot, that descent, in movies, shows, stories, history books, and that's what I think they want to see. I think they want to see if we'll descend ourselves to that level. They want to see the psychological effects of isolation. And we clearly already don't get along with that group across the lake. It's a perfect setup. So in order to not fall prey to their plot, I think we should do the opposite of what they expect." "Which is?" I lifted up the bottle of whiskey I had been nursing since I got out here. "Partying our asses off. If all we do is party and party, then their experiment will be a failure." I grinned a little bit. "You gotta be kidding me." She frowned a little. "Got a better option?" I snapped back. "Do you really think you're that important and interesting to be in an experiment that outlandish? Isn't that kind of narcissistic?" "Did you come out here to insult me, Olivia? I mean, I know you hate me and all." "Oh, shut up. I don't hate you, Chris. Now that I've gotten to spend time with y'all, I've gotten to know you all better. I'll admit, before all of this, I was judging you guys harshly. It's not like we ever interacted much, and aside from Sal, all I heard about you was gossip from other guys and girls. And let me say, you guys seem to have a lot of enemies. Well, at least you and Rob." "You mean a lot of people are jealous of how cool we are?" "In fact, I'm friends with the girl you used to talk to yourself, a girl named Ellie Kennedy." Oh shit, I thought. This had been a relationship that didn't end well for me. I'm sure she had poisoned Olivia's mind with bad talk about me, and now it made sense why she didn't like me. "Yeah, she's in your sorority, but I didn't know y'all knew each other." "We did. I heard you were an asshole to her." "No, she was the mean one. She ditched me for another one of my friends, and then ghosted me for no reason." "You called her a dumb whore!" she cried. I looked down, feeling shame. I was hoping she hadn't heard about my fight with her. It had happened when I had found out she had been hooking up with another guy in my fraternity named Luke. Look, I didn't actually mean that. I was so drunk, I barely remember the argument with her. I rubbed the back of my head in embarrassment, avoiding Olivia's judging gaze. "Just because you were drunk doesn't make that an excuse. She had a right to cut you off after that, and I've always heard about you doing stupid, drunk stuff. Have you ever thought about cutting back?" "Are you insinuating that I'm an alcoholic?" I angrily looked back at her. "You've been drinking every day since we've been here. Every party I saw you at, you were so drunk you could barely function. I've never seen you happy. You always have some drama going on, from what I hear from Sal." "Oh, really? You like talking about us with Sal a lot?" "I just want to help you. Getting drunk all the time in a situation like this could be really dangerous. What if you get distracted tonight or pass out and someone sneaks up on us?" "I can assure you that would never happen. I drink every time I hunt, and no deer ever sneaks up on me." "I'm just saying, you seem like a smart guy, and I don't want you to have to deal with the guilt if something bad happens." "Well, I do have a 33 on the ACT. I brushed my hair to the side. "Oh, really? And isn't your GPA like barely above a 2.0? "Well, school sucks. What's so smart about being good at stuff literally spoon-fed to you?" I don't give a shit about it. Whatever. Maybe you could use this time to, I don't know, become a better person? Replace your addictions with healthier habits? I am not addicted, and I am a good person already. Olivia sighed and pulled out a small electronic vape out of her sweatshirt pocket. Look, I know about addiction too. Before all this happened, I couldn't go a single day without using this thing. And I'm sure you know lots of people who do too. I'm surprised you don't. I prefer real cigarettes, like a true man. Chris, I'm trying to be serious with you, and you're just taking this as a joke. I don't want to hear your bullshit right now. Okay, I'll stop. I threw my hands up defensively. Nicotine can be just as destructive as alcohol or anything else in my opinion, and honestly, if I had access to more of this, I don't think I would have gone this long. This is the longest I've gone without it since high school. I'm proud of myself, even though I crave it every day. You've managed to resist the cigarettes, though, but they have nicotine. I have asthma, Chris. Bad asthma. I've tried them before. It didn't end well. She put the vape back in her pocket. Ooh, that sucks. Sal told me that you used to be really good at drawing, she asked. Oh, great, I thought. This was something I only shared with my closest friends, but I should have expected that he would tell her. Did he now? Did he tell you all my secrets? Hey, it's not something you should be ashamed of. I'll be right back. She ran inside and came back out with the journal that I had been seeing her drawing. I've been into drawing myself also, and this whole thing has given me a lot of time to sketch, she said as she opened the journal and flipped through the pages. There were multiple drawings of everything outdoorsy, ranging from the lake cabin to rabbits and multiple other forest creatures. Shockingly, they were incredibly good drawings, even if they were all in pencil. Did you just want to show these off to me? I questioned her. No, I'm saying you should start drawing too. It would be a way healthier habit than just drinking away. I mean, you would be exercising your brain and everything. I think I'll pass. I haven't drawn in years. She frowned before replying. I'm sure your family's proud that you're putting your talents to good use. Not that you care about your family, since you've hardly mentioned them this whole time, despite the danger they could be in. I felt a spike of anger erupt inside me. You don't know shit about my family, Olivia, and they don't care about me either. Now please leave me be out here in peace. Your annoying voice is ruining the nighttime sounds. I spat back at her. She pouted and headed back inside, but as she walked in with her head down, I felt a little bit of guilt again. This is what you always do, right, Chris? Someone tries to get close to you, and you lash out at them. I tried to ignore the voice in my head and turned back to the Tom Clancy book. Most of the books in the cabin were military books, and it made sense. Jerry and Rob came from a family line of veterans, including their dad. But I had read some books by Tom Clancy before and enjoyed them. I enjoyed reading overall as a whole, but never had time to do it back in Athens. And I also never let anyone know how much I enjoyed it, for fear of being ridiculed. As the night began to grow on, I heard the coyote chorus begin. But as it kept going, I noticed something off about the yapping. I listened closer and realized my thoughts had to be true. The chorus is on loop. It would start out the same, with a bunch of yapping. Then the yapping would turn into a few long howls before ending in a loud whimper, and then a few moments later, it would repeat. Every time, the sound would be the same. There was no distinction or variation in the pattern, and the length was the same each time, a minute, almost exactly. I was even timing it with my watch. This has gotta be a coincidence, right? I wanted to believe that at first, but I knew in our predicament that it had to be something more sinister. And the chorus wasn't coming from one place. I could tell it was moving from place to place around the lake. I grew worried that it would approach our cabin, like those sounds that one night, but luckily, it never did seem to come close. It stayed loud, however, which helped keep me from falling asleep. I also began to theorize what the sound might be. I figured there was no way for it to actually be coyotes, so it had to be something imitating them. And with the way it was on a loop, my guess had to be a giant speaker. I could see it in my mind, a group of people in the woods, with a giant speaker attached to the back of a truck that they would drive around the lake. They probably expected us to pick up on it easily, and wanted to see at least my own reaction, like some sort of psychological experiment. That means that someone could be watching me in the cabin right now. I had remained on the front porch the whole time, but now I had a slight urge to check the driveway and the side porch. If someone was observing us, they would probably be there, or in the woods beyond. If I were more sober, I probably would have seen it as a dumb idea to go investigate, but my liquid courage, combined with the fact that I had the AR-15 with me, was enough to get me to stand up and slowly creep over. I turned on the flashlight too, but there was no way to keep it aimed ahead of me with the gun at the same time, so I let the gun hang to my side with my right hand and held up the flashlight with the other. I figured I would have a quick enough reaction time if I saw something I didn't like. When I made it to the side porch, I made sure to be wary of the raccoons, as I didn't want a repeat of the incident with Rob and wake everyone up. The fire had died down, and I could no longer see as much as I could before on this side of the cabin. I had kept the front porch light on, but it didn't do anything to illuminate this side, and the thick cloak of darkness had fallen over the cars in the garage now. I pierced it with the beam of light, and almost did a double take when I swept across the creepy deer skull. After spotting nothing, I moved on to hesitantly survey the tree line of the hill. Again, I saw nothing. If someone was messing with us, I didn't appreciate it. "Hello!" I called out boldly into the night. No response, but the chorus again, which now sounded far away and on the complete opposite end of the lake. If we were being watched, they were good at hiding, and I wasn't about to venture into the woods right now alone. So I headed back to the front porch and returned to my post, figuring I would tell everyone about the chorus in the morning. Which eventually came, and Rob was the first to wake up as usual. But I waited until we were all awake and making breakfast to mention it. "So, something really weird happened last night," I said loudly. "What's that?" Jerry asked. I was listening to the coyotes and noticed that their hollering was on some sort of loop. "Loop?" Rob asked. "Yeah, like it would start out with a bunch of yapping, then a deep howl, and finally end in a loud whimper." "So basically what the coyotes sound like every night, bro." "No, this was different, I swear. There was a pattern. It was the same every time. Like a YouTube video being replayed over and over again." "That just sounds impossible," Jerry mumbled. "How much did you drink last night, Chris?" Rob went over and picked up the now almost empty bottle of whiskey. Olivia shook her head in disappointment as he did. "That's beside the point, dumbass. You know drinking doesn't affect your hearing, but it does turn you into an idiot, especially you." "Oh, really? I'm surprised you haven't crashed another car into the barn yet. That was years ago, dipshit." "Guys!" Jerry said loudly, stopping our argument. "Maybe you're just thinking into it too much. I mean, how much do any of us actually know about coyotes? And maybe they intentionally start a pattern. If someone was trying to mess with us, I think they would go a little bit more extreme than a coyote pack howl." "Whatever," I said. I still believed it was something more ominous, but I knew they wouldn't be on the same page as me. And I had given thought to what Olivia said last night, about how maybe I was just being a stupid narcissist who thought my life was worthy of being part of some grandiose experiment. Nonetheless, I would ask whoever was keeping watch tonight to pay attention for the sound anyway. I also wished I had some way to record the sound, but my phone had long since died. I yawned as I put my dishes in the sink and headed to my bedroom to take a nap, my exhaustion overcoming me. When I came to, it was 11:46. One of the perks of having mostly analog clocks in the cabin was that we could still keep time, and my own wristwatch was analog too, and quite expensive. I left my bedroom and walked back to the living room, just in time to hear the walkie-talkie buzz and static. "Hello?" A voice I recognized to be Andrew's spoke. "Is Jerry there?" It followed. I was alone in the living room, but quickly spotted Jerry fishing out on the dock, and Rob standing next to him. Olivia was nowhere to be seen. I ran over and grabbed the walkie-talkie before speaking into it. "Hey, this is Chris. He's fishing right now." "Okay, well, can you put him on? This is about the Bible study he wanted to do." "Okay, hang on." I rolled my eyes and walked outside. "Yo, Jerry!" He and Rob both turned back to me. I hopped down to them. I noticed the slime on Jerry's hand looked like it had dried up, but he still wasn't using that arm. He had the rod squished in between his two legs, which looked funky. "It's Andrew. He wants to talk to you about your Bible study." Jerry set his rod down and grabbed the walkie-talkie from me. "Hey, man." "Hello. So my dad had mentioned to us that you wanted to start doing Bible study sessions at Maple Hill Church. My brother ain't want to do it, but me and him want to join you." Jerry's face lit up in a smile. It was the happiest he had looked since this whole ordeal started. That's awesome, man. When do you two want to do it? We were thinking maybe today, Andrew asked. Perfect, we just ate lunch. We could drive over there now and meet you. Sounds good. We'll see you all there. Jerry looked at us both eagerly. Look, man, you know how we both stand. I'd rather not go with you, I said. And did you say you were going to drive there? That sounds stupid and dangerous, his brother followed. His expression of joy faded. The road that takes us to the church is just a simple one that wraps around the lake. It's not like I'll be going back towards any main roads. Rob sighed deeply before replying. I'll come with you. Not for your little church service, but because I don't want you going alone. I may not be able to shoot a rifle, but I can still shoot a pistol, and the asshole won't be there. What about Olivia? She's Christian, I said. I would ask her, but she's all the way out by the abandoned cabin. Went to go sketch it, I think. Ah. Jerry grabbed his rod and headed back inside. Rob and I followed. Jerry didn't waste any time, grabbing his keys and Bible and heading out to his Jeep. Rob made sure to grab his Glock. I realized this could be a chance for my phone to get charged if Jerry gave the hills it. Hey, before you go, I want to ask, how's your hand doing? I asked him as he got into the car. He looked down at it, and so did I. It looked strikingly similar to dried glue. Honestly, better now today. It's all dried up, but I'm still scared to risk picking at it or touching it with anything. Last night I had to sleep with my arm just laying out of my bed. It was super uncomfortable. When I get back, maybe we can try picking it off. It is starting to cause my hand to itch a lot, he replied. I extended my phone out to him. Hey, when you meet with Andrew and his dad, could you ask if they could charge my phone for me? Even without service, it's still an entertaining device. Sure, he said, and grabbed it with his good hand. Rob hopped up into the passenger seat. What are you going to do while we're gone? Jerry asked me. I'll probably go hunting, honestly. He nodded in response and started the Jeep up before backing out. Once they'd left the driveway, I walked back into the cabin. All the guns were laid out on the kitchen table, and the bow and crossbow. An idea popped into my head. Maybe there was a way to get around Rob's no hunting rule for Olivia. If she learned to hunt with the crossbow or normal bow, then she could do it quietly. I walked over to both of the bows and examined them. There was no doubt that crossbow hunting was a lot easier than a traditional compound bow, but there was a chance she might prefer the challenge of a traditional bow. I had only ever killed one deer with a normal bow myself, as it was a lot more difficult than a rifle. I was still feeling bad about her and I's argument last night, and figured this could be a way to make it up to her. I was about a 30-minute or so walk to the abandoned cabin, but I had Rob's truck. After a quick search for his keys, I put the bow, crossbow, and the target for it in the bed. The target was a large, soft, square box that had a worn look and a great number of holes in it. It had long been needing replacing, but nobody ever cared enough to do it. Jerry, who used the bow most, preferred target practice with empty cans. Rob wouldn't like it if I used his truck, but I figured I would only have about 2 hours, give or take, before they returned. And less if something bad happened. So I didn't have time to waste walking, and I didn't want to have to carry everything. I found Olivia where Jerry said she'd be, sitting down on a tree stump and sketching the house. She quickly reacted to me approaching in the truck and closed her sketchbook. I pulled up beside her, cut the engine off, and jumped out. She didn't look too happy to see me. I had avoided bringing any alcohol with me to drink in front of her, as I wanted to stay on her good side. Look, I just want to say sorry about last night. I opened with an apology as I walked up to her. How many times have you made that statement in your life? She quietly muttered under her breath, but I could hear her anyway. Don't be shitty. I wanted to come help you. How? She asked. I think I found a way around Rob's stupid gun ban for you, I said, and walked over to the side of the truck. Her eyes peaked with curiosity. I reached in and pulled out both the bows. If you learn to shoot this, he won't hear the gunshots. It'll be safer for us all together. That's why Jerry uses these. I want to learn with the traditional bow, she said eagerly. You sure? It's a lot harder than the crossbow. Chris, it's my choice. Okay then, I said, and put the crossbow back on the truck. I walked over and handed her the bow. Go ahead and get a feel for the weight and everything, but do not try to fire or even try to pull it back, I instructed. She began moving the bow up and down, twirling it and examining it. I walked back over and pulled out the target, wrist release, rangefinder, and then a third time to grab the arrows. I then walked over and handed Olivia the release. This is the release, just I'm not stupid. I can figure out what this does, she cut me off. I shrugged and let her wrap it around her wrist. She then clamped the release around the back string. Right? She looked at me with a small sheepish grin. Right. Now see if you can pull it back. But wait! Make sure your foot stance is correct. You want to be turned towards the side. She shifted her feet to a surprisingly good-looking stance and then pulled back. Olivia was about average height for a girl, and on the skinnier side, and the bow's draw weight was specified for Jerry himself. I knew she was going to struggle pulling it back, and she did, with her arms shaking. She held it for a couple of seconds before letting it go back. Harder than it looks, right? I questioned. A little. Can I shoot one now? I gave her an arrow, and she notched it. Now, before you pull back, the sight is different from a normal rifle. With a bow, you're going to have to compensate for it falling. You see those green lines on the sight? Well, each one represents a different length. The first one's 20 yards, then 40, and finally 60. More advanced bow hunters can get more advanced scopes, but I personally would never go for a deer more than 60 yards away. Now with the rangefinder, I've set the target 20 yards away, which should be good for beginners, I explained. She pulled the bow back and I watched as she struggled to aim it. After a few seconds, she let an arrow fly. It went high and missed the target entirely. She lowered the bow with a look of disappointment. Hey, that's alright. First time's hard, so keep practicing. Again and again she tried, and again she missed the target. After about 6 shots, she hadn't even hit the box at all. Her look had turned from one of disappointment to one of frustration. I was honestly a little surprised, as I'd expected her to be better at it, but I understood how difficult it must be with the draw weight, as I knew Jerry had it high. She could tell that was the source of her problems too. Can you make it easier to pull back? She questioned me. No, you need to take it to an actual store to do that. This is why I said you should use the crossbow instead. I don't want to use the crossbow. I want it to be a challenge, she pouted. Alright, then keep trying, I guess, I said, and walked over and collected the overshot arrows for her. The second time she missed the first two, but on the third, hit the corner of the box. She smiled a little bit in satisfaction. Good job, I replied. The next arrow hit even closer, and the one after that hit the actual target, but it was the green outer circle. The final one flew high again. You know, Jerry started some sort of Bible study with the Hills over at Maple Hill Church. It's this real pretty church that overlooks the water from one of the cliffs by Eagle Rock. I'm not into that stuff, but I figured you might be, I said as I walked over and picked up the arrows again. Yeah, they actually drove by here before they left and offered me to go with them. I declined. I figured he'd only be talking about the Revelation book, as it's all I ever see him read. And that book creeps me out. I think I've read a little bit about it. Earthquakes and mutated dragons and shit, right? Olivia frowned. Yeah, kinda. I looked through it once as a kid and never did again. Do you believe that's what's happening now? I honestly don't know. Sometimes I believe your theory. Sometimes I believe that we were invaded. I just try to hope that my family and Sal are safe. You must really miss him. You know, it's kind of funny. He and I were probably going to break up. Olivia looked down, fidgeting with her hands. I was shocked that she would make such a statement, and I hesitated a moment before continuing the conversation. Why? He and I argued all the time. And please don't tell Rob this. I don't want him making fun of me. But I said I really didn't like you guys at first, and I wasn't kidding. None of the girls in my friend group wanted to be associated with the asshole drunks of Athens. And yet he would always argue for you guys, saying how I would at least like you and Jerry if I got to know y'all. Rob, however, would take a lot more time. He said Rob was rough, but he would always be there for you. He was a good friend, Olivia explained. Well, I'm glad to know that you and your friends were too good for us. I know, I was just too judgmental, like I said. You know, I didn't even want to come here, but he forced me to. Said it would be a chance to spend time with you guys. We spent the whole car ride up, yelling at each other. Shit, Olivia. She then fell into silence as she notched another arrow and let it fly. This one went far to the left. You know, you had mentioned about how I was a disappointment to my parents, and you're right. Compared to my sisters. They're both better in school than me, and one is even on the damn volleyball team for UGA. But I was always the black sheep to them. My parents are both in the pharmaceutical industry. My dad's a doctor, my mom a pharmacist. When I was just a kid, I fell out of a tree and broke my arm, shattered it. While I was in a cast, my parents just pumped me with pills, all sorts of painkillers, and I loved it. When I started falling behind in school, they just pumped me with all sorts of ADD medicine. When I got sad over getting rejected, antidepressants. When I started questioning them, antipsychotics. They never tried to talk to me about my issues. No matter my problem, they just pumped me with more and more pills. And even when I started stealing them from my mom's pharmacy, she didn't even care. Hell, I'm still supposed to be on Adderall, but nowadays I usually just crush up the pills and snort them before parties. My relationship with my parents grew cold during high school, as they focused more on my sisters. My sisters weren't the broken ones. They neglected me, and I neglected them. I'm sorry, Chris. That's why I weirdly don't even really miss them. I mean, maybe a tiny part of me worries about them, but that's all. I never really talked to them anyway, and they just made sure to keep me stuffed with money. My parents are always there for me. I couldn't imagine. Do your friends know about all that? Well, my close ones, and maybe a few strangers I've met black out at the bar. You know, there's nothing wrong with getting a therapist. I got one recently to help me talk about my issues about Sal and I don't need a therapist. That's all just a scam anyway. I can always just rant to Jerry. He's a great listener. That's why I've always liked those two. Most friends and people in my life just come and go. Whether something happens and they leave you, or the spark just slowly fades until they lose interest. But no matter what, Jerry and Rob have always been there for me. Okay, no need to get so defensive. Did the antidepressants help when you were on them? She asked. I'm not depressed either. My parents just didn't know what they were doing. Just because someone's sad doesn't mean they're depressed. Well, you sure do drink like a depressed person, and bottle your emotions till they come flying out in a rage. Olivia, please don't try to psychoanalyze me. Let's just get back to target practice. Fine then, she said with a look of disappointment. I could tell she meant well, but I hated it more than anything when people tried to control me, or thought they knew what was best for me. We continued to practice for about 30 more minutes, and kept the conversation more casual. Olivia asked about the coyotes, and if I was really worried if it was something different, to which I told her about my plan to record it. She agreed with me that it could be something, but also warned me not to let my paranoia get the better of me. After the 30 minutes had passed, I decided we would be risking Rob catching us, and packed everything up. Olivia opted to stay and finish her sketch. Do you know anything about this cabin? She asked me right before I was about to leave. Yeah, actually, there's a spooky story behind it. Allegedly, the owner of it killed his wife a long time ago and died. This happened before any of us were born. But it used to scare the hell out of me as a kid. So if someone else lived here, wouldn't they have lived on your land? Like, how was that possible? Was he a farm manager or something for the property? She had a good point. I never put that much thought into it, but that makes sense. Maybe I'll ask Jerry and Rob about the story later on, but I better get back, I said, and started walking to the truck. Bye, Chris, she said. As I drove back, I thought about how my relationship was starting to improve with her. Honestly, I could have never seen it happening, and maybe, just maybe if all this wasn't a big deal, then something good was going to come out of this. I always struggled with keeping girls as friends, but maybe if she got to liking me enough, I could be as close to her as I was with Rob and Jerry. Once I got back, I set up the target and did a little bit of practice myself. Naturally, I was a lot better than Olivia, but I had been practicing my whole life. Another 30 or so minutes passed, and I saw the Jeep rolling down the hill into the driveway. Jerry and Rob both hopped out. How was it? I asked. I liked it. Mr. Hill knew a surprising amount about the Bible, Jerry replied first. Did you lay it on them heavy with the end of the world stuff? No, I decided to start out on a lighter topic. A few verses in the Bible about loving your neighbor as you love yourself and about forgiving others. I figured it was appropriate, considering we all got off on a rocky start, he replied. I noticed him itching his hand with the dried slime. Did you give him the phone? I asked. I did. And how was the ride? I asked. Rob spoke up for the first time, replying to me. We heard some creepy-ass shit. On the way there, I turned the radio on. Like usual, it was mostly static, until we heard this man's voice. He just kept saying over and over again, "Help, help, they're coming to get me." There was almost no variation in it, although sometimes he'd switch to just, "Someone help me," or "Please, please help." I wasn't scared by it, but Jerry here thought it was pretty unsettling. I simply replied. I thought back to the coyotes, and my idea of how they would try to mess with us psychologically. See, this is what I meant with the coyotes. Maybe we're about to start getting screwed with seriously, I followed up. I hope not. This is stressful enough, Jerry said. I need a drink. After listening to their Sunday school, Rob spoke, and then walked into the cabin. I followed him. Not long after, Olivia returned, and the rest of the day went by.